Hello everyone. First off, I know it's been a while since I've been posting, and really that's because I've just been enjoying this awesome spring. Been doing a lot of fishing, hanging out with friends, and just means I haven't been videoing full-length videos. But today we're going to change that just a little bit. So what are we doing? We're going to talk about why it's really difficult to be a backyard scientist. I'll admit I'm one of these and I'm not critiquing anybody else. Hopefully I'm going to give you some idea of, when someone says, hey, I'm doing this experiment, I'm doing it on my own dollar, and I'm going to draw some conclusions, but I'm not going to draw, the ultimate conclusion. And I think all in all, we should probably try and temper our critiques when somebody is willing to do that, because I have a couple of examples in front of me. You can see one, maybe two. Not quite sure on my camera angle, but that's why I'm an amateur. But I'm going to talk to you about why being a backyard scientist is really, really difficult. So today we're going to be talking about two rifles that I own that look very, very similar to each other, but it'd be really hard for me to say, this one is better than that one, or that one is better than this one, for a few reasons. Objectively, if I was going to go tell you to go purchase one of these or those or whatever. But because, these aren't cheap. But anyway, so why is it really difficult to draw conclusions? Well, first off, we're going to start with the similarities. So I'm holding these two up as close as I can, and really you can see about three key differences. The first is the top rifle is probably 2.5 inches shorter. I think the top rifle is a 18-inch barrel and the bottom rifle is a 20-inch barrel. The second is there's a nice muzzle brake on this one, and the other one is threaded. I haven't put a muzzle device on it there yet. And then the third is the scope profiles. Other than that, they're pretty much exactly the same. Both of them have the Savage type trigger, even though this is a Ruger and this is a Savage. They've got that AccuTrigger. But other than that, functionally, these two rifles are almost exactly the same. They're the same exact caliber, they're the same exact capacity, and they both do their job pretty darn well. So why is it that I can't just say this one is better than that one or that one's better than this one? Well, firstly is I have a sample group of one, right? And as consumers, usually we aren't trying to buy the same exact thing twice. So if I was to, really match this up, I'd have to search for a Ruger American that's 20-inch with a 20-inch barrel instead of an 18-inch barrel, or a Savage 110 and a 18-inch and then with a muzzle brake as well. Now we can certainly switch this back and forth, but the reality is if I was buying two rifles that were, basically identical, I wouldn't be gaining any capability at all. I would have, two exact carbon copies of each other, and what good would that do me unless, because I can only hold and shoot one of these at a time, so that really wouldn't do me any good, right? So that's why, from the very start, being a backyard scientist is really, really hard, because even, purchasing two rifles of even this similarity kind of hurt me, because I was like, I have a rifle that does everything exactly like I want it to, and this one here, I purchased this one here first and purchased this one second. But I said, I don't gain any capabilities, I don't gain any massive differences, because these are the same caliber and they are similar format to each other, where, if I was to hand this just to somebody one time and say, hey, out in the deer woods, here you go, here's your rifle, it's zeroed at 100, go take a nice doe or two or a buck or whatever happens to cross your road, and then 2 years later I hand them this rifle, they'd say, oh yeah, I probably used that rifle a couple years ago. No, you used the opposite one. So like I said, from a format standpoint, these two are very, very similar. Now we can get into the nitty gritty. So as I mentioned, this is a Ruger American and this is a Savage 110. So if you're an aficionado of any sort of these more entry-level rifles, you'll know that this is a Ruger American Generation 1, because it doesn't have the stock upgrade, and these were retailing a few years back for around that $300 to $400 price point. This is a Savage 110. This is not their entry level. So someone could make an argument, Matt, you don't have a like to like, you have an entry level model and you have the next one up, so one tier higher in the Savage 110, which I would say, yep, you're correct. That is a fair assessment of these two rifles, because this one is very much an entry level and this one is very much plus one of that. So you could make an argument that that's not a fair comparison as well. And then another one is, these are both samples of one. You can go on the internet and you can Google a Savage 110 and read reviews in any caliber of any sort, and you'll find this is the most accurate firearm I've ever owned. It shoots 1 MOA or sub MOA at 100, 200, 300 yards every single time. And then you can scroll down 30 or 40 reviews and you'll see, I can't get this thing to hit a sheet of paper at 25 yards. And you go, well, that's not really good. You can do the same thing with the Ruger American. You can go and you can find Generation 1 guns that perform absolutely flawlessly sub MOA groups at 100 plus yards, and then you scroll down to the reviews, and then, you get past the 5-star reviews and the 4-star reviews and the 3 stars. You get down to the 1-star reviews that say, I can't hit the broadside of a barn even when I'm standing inside of it. So that's another thing that's really hard as somebody who really wants objective data to really draw conclusions from. So what we have to do is we have to temper these things and just draw general conclusions and try and grab data as best as we can. So that's where I think a lot of people struggle, is they see one review from this manufacturer or that manufacturer and they go, I'm never ever going to buy it from them again because this person that I listened to had a bad experience. Now what I would say is really helpful is when people do run into problems and then we see how the company responds. So for example, if I ran into a feeding issue with this one, haven't yet, but all of a sudden it just won't feed any of the rounds I feed through it. So you bring it back, gun's safe by the way, you bring it back and on the way forward it jams up every single time, and you've got to do the good old rock it back and forth 8-9 times before it'll fully seat down. To me, I don't like that at all when you have a bolt action rifle that you've got to play with the action to be able to get it to close. That's going to cost you shots, that's going to cost you accuracy, and it's going to cost you reliability. So if I ran into that and I said, hey Ruger, I purchased this rifle from you 3 months ago, shot great for the first 100 rounds, and then at the 101 round mark I started experiencing feeding issues. I think the value then becomes, how does Ruger respond to that? They say, send it in, we'll work on it. They say you send it in, they work on it, they send you the rifle back, it matches the serial number that you sent in, all that good stuff. And then, they send you a note sheet. Hey, we noticed that your feed ramp was a little steep, so we narrowed that down, or we replaced that component, or X, Y, or Z, and they tell you what they found. Or, oh, looking at your serial number, we realized that we had a QA batch, quality assurance, for those of you who don't know what that is. We had a QA failure, that it was in the batch of rifles that failed, and we're sorry we just didn't get that out to you, but we fixed the issue. Here's the parts number that we replaced. That's where I think those have really good value, is seeing how the company responds to those sorts of things. So next time that you're looking at a review of seeing one rifle compared to the next, keep that in the back of your mind that, hey, if we're trying to get you the best data as backyard scientists, it doesn't matter what topic you're on. It doesn't matter if it's cars, bows, firearms, fishing. Take your pick. It's really hard to get really, really good data, because in order to do so, we're going to have sample groups of 20, 50, 100, 200. And for the average person, if I was to go out and buy 200 Ruger Americans and 450 Bushmaster with muzzle brakes and 18 inches in this exact format, I would be spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and we're going to end up with a significant amount of data for that. And then same thing in the Savage 110. So like I said, next time that you're looking at a review of something, please keep that in the back of your mind, especially when they're comparing two dissimilar products, even if those dissimilar products look very, very similar at the surface level. Anyway, hopefully this wasn't too much of a rant. Really just trying to get you guys some information out there on looking at and trying to get the best data so you can make really good decisions. And as you, because guess what? We only get to spend our money once. Once you spend it, it's gone. And what I would hate to do is say, yep, this is 1,000% better than that. And then you run into a situation where you find something differently. With that being said, there should be a few more videos coming out. You guys have a wonderful day. Hopefully you found this informative. And if you didn't, go ahead and let me know what I should be doing differently. Take care.